And moving out west, we have new details in the death investigation of actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, in their New Mexico home. During a press conference this afternoon, officials revealed the cause of death as well as clearer timelines that led up to their final days.
The cause of death for Mr. Gene Hackman, aged 95 years, is hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributory factor.
Joining me now for more on this, ABC News' Trevor Ault and former San Bernardino Police Chief Jared Bergwan. And Trevor, I want to begin with you because you were at that press conference, and if I recognize your voice, you asked how likely it was that in his final days, Hackman had basically been home a week after his wife's death.
Yes, Alex, and this is a very tragic update, but it does fit with all of the clues that we had learned over the past 9 days since Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found dead in their Santa Fe home. And what we knew in that time frame is that while it appeared that it had been a large amount of time before they were discovered, we knew from pacemaker data that it was likely that Gene Hackman had been dead for 9 days before he was found. But we knew there in that significant decomposition of their bodies that they had said from the beginning Betsy Arakawa appeared to have decomposed further. And what we learned at this press conference is that fits the timeline, is that they believe the last time that she had any activity, the last time she was ever seen alive was February 11th. And then they confirmed that it appears that Gene Hackman, while suffering from severe heart disease and also from Alzheimer's, was at home with his deceased wife for a week before he passed away himself. Now, they also specified Gene Hackman died from cardiovascular disease that was significant, and it was as we heard, complicated by Alzheimer's, which would also explain him being at home after his wife had already passed. And they also went into detail about this rare sickness that appears to have killed Betsy Arakawa, hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, which is a very rare disease. It's not quite as rare here in New Mexico in that it's completely unheard of, but even so, they specified that in the past 5 years, there's been only 1 to 7 cases in the state each year, which is very minimal. But the problem is hantavirus can be very deadly very quickly with a survival rate that can only go from in the 30s to 50%. It can be very deadly and it can happen quite quickly. That appears to be the case here. Now, this is a mystery that the entire world was tuned into for more than a week, talking about a legend in Gene Hackman. It is very sad, of course, to get these specifics, but law enforcement was adamant from the beginning that there were no signs of foul play, and it appears from these findings that they were correct. And we do finally have some answers here, Alex.
Well, and Trevor, sticking with that hantavirus for a second, because that autopsy, they tested for COVID, negative on that, tested for carbon monoxide, which is something that a lot of people hypothesized about. Both were found negative for that. But this hantavirus, or this sin nombre virus, as I heard them talk about during this presser, something that's carried in deer mice. Is there any theory there as to how Arakawa contracted this?
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't quite say that and what makes it even more complicated is that they tested their home, they checked it out, they did not think that there would be any more risk of the virus there at the home compared to any other home that was well cared for. And they also specified that dogs, which we know that the Hackmans had at home, cannot carry hantavirus. So one of their dogs that was killed here as well, it wasn't spread from that. It makes it even more of a mystery, but we do know compared to other states, hantavirus is considered more common. It's certainly not common overall, but it does happen. And based on what officials were saying, Alex, it seems likely that we may never know exactly how Betsy Arakawa contracted this disease, which is all the more heartbreaking for this family when you consider the fact that she was 65. She was considered to be in good health here. We have these answers. It does not necessarily bring satisfaction. It does not make it any less of a tragedy, but at least there is some detail of how this woman and her husband both died.
Yeah, definitely some answers. But as you mentioned, Trevor, very heartbreaking. I appreciate your reporting on this. And Jared, I want to swing this to you, sir, because you were listening along with this presser with me. I'm curious, what stood out to you? And now that we have this timeline and also the results from both of these autopsies, in your estimation, I mean, would this be the turning point for which investigators would likely close this case?
Sure. Well, as far as the press conference goes, excuse me, as far as the press conference goes, I was really impressed with the way the authorities gave details and really clarified a lot of issues. As far as the investigation goes, we talked a little bit about it before. Investigators still need to dot all of their I's and cross their T's and finish their work they're doing on this. They need to complete the cell phone piece. They need to know what the toxicology tests are going to show once those results come back. And of course, the dog is still a little bit of a mystery here. Now, if she had been passed for, the better part of 2 weeks and the dog was already in a compromised state of health, being that she just picked him up from a vet, and it was an older dog, as I understood, the dog may very well have starved to death or something tragic like that. But investigators need to finish their work. The fact that the medical examiner is saying it is likely natural causes, and that's what they're ruling this, that's probably going to close the book on anything criminal.
So just to be clear, from your estimation, your expert opinion, what was labeled as a suspicious death, even though they were saying there was no indication of foul play, suspicious death, you feel like that title, that label is likely going to go away?
Sure, and I think that from the public standpoint, it will always be viewed as a bit of a mystery because we're not going to be able to know exactly when she died in relation to him and what that dynamic that went on. Those are probably things that we'll never completely close the loop on. So the mystery will contain, but as far as any potential criminality or suspicion of wrongdoing, I think we can put that behind us now.
All right, Jared, I appreciate your insight, sir. Thank you very much.